So we've talked a lot about the physical side of things, but I would say just as important or more important is the mental side of things. And anybody who's won 6 world championships, I have to talk to them about the mental side of things. So I guess let me start by saying, what would you do leading up to a tournament and in the tournament? Visualization, priming, like what kind of stuff were you into and are you into?
Right. So I've had some pretty good, my one sports psychologist that I had a good experience with, that he had some extensive research in the neural priming, more or less, and getting athletes in the zone, being able to perform at their highest level and such. And so we had some pretty good techniques.
Well, you got to share them. We want to know.
But even when I first started out, I had a large degree of, the visualization element to my performance. And even when I was quite young, I had read a book on, the visualization and the, trying to realize, your thoughts and, seeing your perfect result and a variety of different things. So I started practicing that when I was quite young. So it was, it's something that's stuck with me. It's tough to do now when you're on the clock, though. And that was probably the biggest thing for me when they first initiated the shot clock, where, I wasn't slow, but there was this process where I would stand behind the ball. I'd visualize the shot I wanted to hit and visualize the swing I wanted to make with the speed I wanted to make it, just sort of that perfect scenario. But that doesn't lend itself to a shot clock, right? So, yeah. But when I first, started, like the visualization was huge. Where, mentally I would prepare myself for every shot. So every shot had a specific purpose. Every shot was important. Every shot, counted, right? So there was, I had this high degree of mental engagement on every single swing. And when I'm on the tee, and I tried to practice that while I was practicing, just to become more competent at that. And as well, working at different scenarios when in competition, for instance, like we're hitting 6 balls at a time, first 3 out, only 3 balls left. So, get tough at this, try and hit the next 3 balls exactly how you want to hit them with the same flight, whatever, hit them all in play, or, work, right from the start, 6 balls, 5 balls, and work all the way through, 5 balls out. Last one you needed to hit in play. So work through those scenarios in my practice sessions where, there was always a definitive purpose to each practice session and a purpose to every shot, right? So I was trying to concentrate as much as I could, being able to engage mentally with, that connection on every shot. And then with myself in competition, anybody that competes at anything for, sometimes it's easy, like everything feels great. And, yeah. You perform at the best, but how do you get yourself when you're not performing your best to, elevate that performance? And, just some techniques, there's a whole variety of things, how to get engaged or, get into the zone or, to just try to maximize your performance with in a scenario where things aren't easy that day. And some of the things were we're working on balance, and then also an activity that involved coordination at the same time. For instance, balancing on a med ball, like kneeling and then juggling at the same time, to heighten my engagement and the region of the brain that would be responsible for our performance and, kind of getting into this maximum neuromuscular capabilities, in a time conscious manner. So, kind of being, working on like this balance element, there's a whole bunch of things, but that was the one thing that I would go to is, kneeling on a med ball and then juggling at the same time, where it for me, that was able to, hone my mental focus and kind of get me to a level where I could perform at my best.
Yeah. I think I've got to practice that for a while. But you brought up a good topic of on your off days, what do you do? So, does your strategy change? And you also kind of mentioned making each shot count. Each one matters, but would you maybe start a set like, this one's going to be like 80%. I'm going to hit a cut, and then I'm going to progress harder, hit a draw? Or like, what would you do? And would it change then if you were having an off day and it was harder for you to get it in the grid?
Right. There's always the go-to shot. And, for me, it was always tough to hit a draw under pressure. I could do it most of the time. And many years I practiced on, hitting this, beautiful high towering draw, low spin, great launch, great speed. But I would inevitably revert to, I used to hit it, or I hit it quite straight, but more so with a cut, right? I won pretty much all my championships with a slight fade, or more of a straight bias shot. And so that would always sort of kind of come out in competition, where it was a low spin fade though, like it wasn't a higher spinning, right? So it kind of that 1800 type spin, high launch, 1800 spin, but good contact, great ball speed coming off, and essentially just it was a shot that just fell to the right, but it had great dynamics to it, right? But I would practice trying to, obviously try to hit windows. Like I had, the 9 windows I tried to hit it in. Like if I needed, straight high, straight medium, straight low, and then left to right, low, left to right, medium, left to right, high, and then the right to left, the same thing, right to left high, right to left medium, right to left low. So, I try to hit those windows and just produce those ball flights as consistency as I could. But, in competition, you kind of, a lot of times you go with got you there. But, when winds are affecting and such, that there's such a high value to being able to utilize the wind. So it's important to be able to, kind of, have your stock shot, but then have the ability to work the ball to maximize your distance. Yeah,
for sure. So I want to kind of switch topics here again and get into something might be a little bit controversial for some, but performance enhancing drugs in sports and, doping policies and things like that. So with your background as a pharmacist, I'm sure you're very familiar with what's going on. I know you follow Olympic lifting closely. What do you think is the role of that? I used to think, like back in high school, I was like, oh, nobody's taking steroids. Like Ronnie Coleman, no, he's just got great genetics and works really hard. And then, my eyes were open up. I was like, well, that was stupid. So what do you think is the role of that in golf and in long drive?
Yes. For a number of years, I worked working with different organizations and athletes, quite often at significant levels that were under, very high scrutiny in doping control and just understanding, the impact of, what even taking supplements or prescription medication, just navigating that whole world and then working with organizations that wanted to initiate a doping control program to, just to, for the safety of the athletes, the integrity of the competition, obviously the appearance of the sport as well to the public and other sport organizations. So I've worked in a number of different capacities in that respect. So, it's interesting because it's a very significant topic in today, and any sport that there's significant speed, power, strength, all aspects, any aspect of athleticism, there is the potential that for performance enhancement through methods that may if in a tested federation, obviously that may not be legal, right, within the context of their doping control program, right? So it's important that, and for the athlete as well, like quite often they don't recognize the impact of potentially putting a substance in their body that has potentially some major problems that it can create, physically, mentally as well, down the road and acutely. So it's a big aspect of sport, and whatever sport that we look into, there's always, we need to have a conscious thought of, the potential for doping control or doping in the sport, but and then the problem is how do you effectively control it, right?
Yeah, that's the problem,
right?
Yeah.
Like obviously when you're paying your money and you're signing up to do an event, and you want to be on an equal footing as everyone else, right? Like you don't want anybody to have an advantage. Like we want competition, but we don't want a competition that's tainted or somebody has an undue advantage by by some method, right? That, whether it be, whatever, like clubs or, in this case, like, elevating the body performance.
Well, just to kind of play devil's advocate so, a bunch of different documentaries, Icarus, I think it was called Screwed, about Major League Baseball. They would kind of make the argument that if you take steroids, it's not that you're necessarily elevating yourself to the rest of the competition. It's that the rest of the competition is really already there. You're just kind of then playing in their field. And so, I'm certainly not advocating for it, but I did hear a couple of years ago an interesting argument. And I always kind of like hearing arguments when it's like the opposite of what you initially thought. And so they were saying that they think if any steroids, any performance enhancing drugs were allowed, it would be safer and better for the athlete, because then you could do what you need to do. You could, have it tested, work a little bit better with your doctor, not have to worry about a lot of things around competition. But then also when you're done competing, like do what you need to do, kind of like get in, make it happen and get out. Like Dorian Yates' approach, that was what he did in bodybuilding. And I hadn't considered that before, but that's like an interesting argument. What do you think of that?
Right. Yeah, definitely. The, kind of the, just let the athletes, go at it. Right. And, the problem is like the safety as well. But if the athlete has to be aware that, anytime you're putting a, exogenous compound into the body, there's an effect, right? There's a positive effect. There could be a negative effect, and there could be a significant negative effect and such, right? So,
testing then really becomes the crux of it, where in like Icarus, for example, in the documentary, or there's another one, I don't remember the name of it now, but you always think of like the Olympics as this perfectly squeaky clean kind of thing. And then you find that, you've got whole countries that they have a statewide doping program, and none of them got tested and are identified as positive. So then it really just becomes, well, who's gonna pass the test? Who's not going to pass the test? And the actual implementation of it is so difficult that it's not even necessarily a good option at times.
Right. Yeah. It's tough because, there's always, when you look deeply at it, it seems that doping is always sort of a half step ahead of doping control to a certain degree. Right. So,
yeah.
There's the general, the general concept is good, right? Where you want all the athletes on an equal footing, but then, it kind of, is that really true, right? Is the equal footing an actual thing, or is it just, who's working the hardest and who's able to, escape the test the best, right? So, it's a difficult question, I guess. In the grand scheme of things, like trying to keep the person as healthy as possible, being on an equal footing, one person not having an undue advantage over another, like in those grand, kind of thoughts. But, there's all these other things that come into play where, like the testing protocols, the ways to manipulate things, what have you, right? So
and I would argue even more important than that is just putting in the work. You could give somebody all of the drugs in the world, all of illegal equipment, a 60-inch driver.
Right.
And if they don't put in the work, if they don't actually develop their skills, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, it definitely, that's definitely it, right? Like you need to put in the work, whether, it be in the gym, technically, what have you, right? It doesn't, just by taking a certain component, it doesn't make you, that much better by not doing anything, right? So, although, like some of the studies where people did nothing and, they were given a testosterone supplement, they actually got stronger than the people that actually worked out, right? But there's a lot of different implications, right? But it's a tough go, and it's expensive to do, right? And it just to do like the full kind of urine panel and blood as well, like it's well over $1,000 a sample, right? And who's going to pay for that, and who are you going to test, right? So there's all these questions that need to be answered, and does it in the end, does it matter, right? But like for instance, like if you tested like 8 random people and all the winners of each division at the long drive event, right? So we got 8 randoms and then 3 winners. So we got $11,000. That's a low estimate. It's way more than that, but just say $11,000 in testing. Where's that money coming from? To we have to increase entry fees and such, and we struggle, to have reasonable purses, and you know what I mean. It's just it's really expensive. There's the logistics of it are tough as well, right? But I think conceptually it's good conceptually, but there's so many elements to it that it makes it difficult at times, right?
Yeah. I remember hearing a kind of a funny story from a few years ago, and I hope I get the details right, but I'm not obviously I wouldn't name anybody, but I don't mean anything disparaging on anybody. But I think it was in 2015, maybe the U.S. Hosted I think it was the World Weightlifting Championship, if I remember correctly, and they had a drug testing policy that anybody who set a new world record would get tested. And I don't think anybody set a new world record, but I think there were like 20 world record ties or some crazy amount, some a lot. And that kind of is, it goes to the point of where, well, is testing going to show something there? Is it common sense that's going on? And it's just kind of an odd thing, but that's the reality of the world we live in. And there's all sorts of different advantages. People get, biohacking is probably one of the top Google terms now, like how red light therapy and stem cells and like all this stuff. It can help your performance theoretically, at least, but then where do you draw the line exactly?
Right. Yeah. It's the World the WADA list of banned substance components and methods. Like it used to be pretty simple, but now it's like if you just take a cruise through there, it's there's the in competition stuff, there's the out, depending, in competition, out of competition, some specifics for different other scenarios. But I mean, there's so many emerging technologies and methodologies and such that it makes it difficult to, stay on top of things. Right. And yeah, it's a crazy area. And, ultimately, somebody has great genetics and puts the work in, and they're going to be good no matter what, right? But or even you put you have a great plan, you leave no stone unturned, you put the good work in, that it lends itself to performance. So, and it's a lot about working smart, working hard. And letting your body rest and recover, recuperate, right? And also, bringing your best to the day of the competition. So no matter what it is, like those kind of factors, vectors, they're universal, right?
Yeah. Well, it's obvious that, based on the way you talk about all of this and what I've seen in videos in the past and talked to other people who know you, you have worked very hard and very smart. And you've definitely had the results. I remember hearing a story. I've heard it actually a few times, so maybe you can confirm if it's true. But back in the day, and now it is again 6 balls per set. It used to be 8 for a while, but I heard that you went up to a set, like you were ready to go for a 6-ball set, and you brought 8 drivers. Is that right?
Yeah. Sometimes I was a little over the top with that. Obviously, back in the day, you had time to switch. Now you don't. You might be able to switch between clubs once, right? With the with the time constraints now. So maybe 3 times if you were, really got into it. But yeah, no, I would take a bunch up there. Like most of the time it was not quite 8, but like 6, sometimes like 5 or 4. Like I would have like a short one that I know I could hit in play for sure. Right. Like if I got into a scenario where, and what the other guys in the set were doing, and it got down to crunch time and I needed to get one in play, I knew I could hit one in with the short driver. Then I'd have a, what the conditions were presenting at the time, the optimum club for that. And I'd have 2 backups to that one. And then I would have 2 others that, if conditions changed on the tee, for instance, started blowing down, I'd have one that, would be optimal down. And then one that if it started blowing in, would be optimal in. And so that was kind of my methodology, that I would, I'll have, that sort of setup where I would have something with whatever presented to me on the tee, right? Like whether, it was just the stock setup or something in the conditions that changed, or the conditions on the tee that I need to get one in.
Well, it all makes sense when you put it that way. And for people who don't know, equipment does break all the time. When you're hitting at 220 miles an hour, nothing is really built to stand with that, other than an anvil, right? So stuff breaks, and then you got to have backups. And that's, again, like working smart and working hard. That's a very thoughtful way to do it. I was talking with David Mobley maybe a month ago now, and he was saying like what a professional you were in all of your conduct and your mannerisms and your approach to it. And I think that's a good example of it.
Yeah, I tried to, kind of, approach things as best I could, right? And really put a good effort into all the aspects and all the vectors of, performance on the tee and, getting myself ready. And also throughout the world, I tried to promote it as best I could, at times, on my own dime, sort of to my own detriment, to travel the world to, just to sing the praises of the long drive and the fun of the sport and the value of the competitors and all the divisions. And, I thought, just to represent the sport in the highest regard possible, to paint us in the best light. And, just because ultimately, people are going to come across, guys that hit it far, and, I wanted to just expose them to, this element of, it's fun, it's great, it's exciting, but these guys can do, and these guys and ladies can do some amazing things with the golf ball. And if you ever have the chance, watch these guys. And, I tried to, do my best to bring long drive to the best light possible and promote it as best I could. And, through all the countries I visited over, 25 plus years of my travels and such. And, I think it was a great, great time in the, kind of the mid 90s and the 2000s to expose a lot of people to the elements of long drive and kind of pave the path a little bit.
Yeah, well, for sure. On that note, are we going to see you this year in competition? What do you got going on right now?
Right now, just doing some work with TPI, where we're kind of crafting up a new power program. We have a Power 2 program, which is kind of an introduction to power in golf. It kind of covers everything from, some of the physiology, the physics of power. We go through the engine, the body stuff that we can do to tap into power, the swing modifications. We tap into club stuff. And then this is an extension of that. So been working on that for quite a while now. And just, with our TPI program, it's great information. And, it's this body swing connection where, there's not one way to swing the golf club. There's infinite ways to swing it, but there's one right way for each individual. And we can tap into efficiency, if we need to work on certain things with, mobility, strength, speed, power, whatever we need to do with whatever goals that we desire, that, the body and the swing are, significantly interconnected, right? Because for years, I always like to draw this example. Like if you're physically not capable of doing something, and you could have the best instructor in the world that's wanting you to, do a particular thing, if you're not physically able to do it, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, so we need to understand that unique relationship of how the body and the swing react with each other. So working with a few players now, a number of players, across the spectrum from, long drive competitors, potential long drive competitors, to tour players, to average players on, increasing their power and, having some fun with the game and trying to hit it far. We'll see. I had the intention of maybe kind of coming out to an event and maybe not against the big boys in the open division, but against the old guys in the senior master division. But Dave's always hitting it good, and Gavin and Eddie had a great showing last time, and but it would be great to come out and see the guys again, and just just be a part of it, because it's so much fun. Like, anybody's ever thinking of trying it, you need to come and try the qualifier or the amateur division, or if possible, against yourself and Kyle Berkshire and Martin Bergmeyer and Justin James against the big boys in the open, right? And but it's a great group of guys, and it's super fun. And like I said, anybody that tries it will generally stick with it, and you kind of get hooked on it. And it's one of the most enjoyable things, like, I find about golf, is just trying to hit it far. And the long drive competition is it's awesome.
It is a lot of fun. I'm sure everybody would be super happy to see you, but at the same time, they probably don't want to be up on the tee box with you. So mixed emotions, I'm sure.
Yeah. Never know, right? It's always great to come out, and it would be nice to, kind of jump back in the competition venue again.
Yeah, cool. Well, I hope so. Did you want to share any of the data that you said you had some different graphs and charts and stuff with the TPI stuff, or maybe another time?
Yeah, maybe another time, like, to get into that. So, some of the stuff that just, I've done a number of presentations with, some of the swing stuff, and maybe another time we can talk about some of the characteristics that we see in, some of the elite long drivers, right? Like, that'd
be fascinating, because, you obviously are very, you take a very intelligent approach to this, and it's always great to hear stuff like that. So yeah, I look forward to another time learning that, but thank you so much for your time today. You've been really generous with it, and I hope I will see you out on a competition this year.
A good deal. I'd like to be out again, so it'd be great to see yourself, Steve, and all the rest of the guys. So, great being on today, and anytime you guys need me, I'm here.
Awesome. Now, where can people follow you? You said you work with some people, some training. Is that something you're still open to taking on more clients? Can people contact you about that?
Yeah, definitely. Myself, like, I'm, reachable at Instagram and through Twitter as well. Through still working, on some website stuff. I had one that, some issues and such, but sort of got things almost rectified there. But my email at Golfzilla Zuback at gmail.com, or you can send me a message through Instagram. And for sure, like, I work wide variety of players, and people love to hit it far and try to improve their distance. So, and I'm pretty versed in most of the the different elements of it. So we can generally get a good approach, and make some significant clip at speed gains, and even accuracy gains. And the guys in long drive, the long drive potential competitors and competitors I work with, obviously they all want to hit it farther and get better, and try and challenge for Kyle for knocking him off the perch that he's on. But
right.
He works hard. Like, I love his approach, and Kyle and I chat quite often, and I just I can't be more impressed with how he approaches things, his work ethic, his mental toughness, even though, sometimes he doesn't have his A game on the tee, but he's able to muster wins and advancing through rounds, and he's got a tremendous approach to things, and his thought process is exceptional, and it shows how hard he works, and his commitment to the sport, and obviously the maximum performance while on the tee. It speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's right. Now, if people want to get involved with your TPI work, is that only like getting certified as is it level 2 power?
Right. Yeah. So the general, the general people that take our TPI is ones that, golf instructors, physical fitness professionals, medical professionals, are kind of the general ones that, start on the TPI route and they can disseminate we do have some players that take the TPI course, and we have a level 1 TPI, or the first introductory one, where we go through the screening, some of the swing characteristics that we see, and some, a lot to do with the body swing connection, the physical and the physical things that we bring to the table, and then how we impact the swing. So everybody starts at the level 1, and then we've got a number of paths we can go down, like the medical 2, medical 3, fitness level 2, level 3 for the physical fitness professionals, and then the golf level 2, level 3 for the golf professionals, and then power level 2, level 3 as well for those that want to be more kind of understand the power aspect of things, and be more knowledgeable in the power elements. And then we also have a junior development as well, junior 2 and junior 3. So no matter what path you want to go down, there's something for everybody down there. And I think it's a tremendous program. And any professional that wants to augment their knowledge and have a specific kind of tilt towards the golf side, our TPI program is exceptional.
You do the actual teaching of the program, or do you do like the behind the scenes development of the?
A bit of both. Myself, I'm one of the instructors in the Power 2 program and the Power 3. We've been doing a lot of the stuff with COVID and such, web-based. So Zoom webinar, and most of our product is available through the online aspect. So there's pretty robust online element to the level 1, and then the level 2s. All the level 3s are generally in person, but and then we have supplemental. There's a PDF manual that goes with our power level 2, and then we will have a certain couple hour blocks that will go through the variety of content that we have in the thing, where you can ask us questions, and we'll go through sort of the live teaching of that, and often a live teaching of the whole program on a full day Zoom webinar course.
Nice.
As well. But most of the stuff had been online, but with some of the easing of restrictions and stuff, some of the in-person is coming back.
Good. Well, great. Any other parting words of wisdom for the long drive audience, or the golfer who's just getting into long drive?
I think just you gotta know where you're at. Know where you're at physically. So we have the how. We need to assess sort of mobility wise first, right? So know how mobile we're at, where we may need work, because that can be, a source of, potential for injury, but also a source of potential for performance. So, our mobility, flexibility, we need to be, kind of aware of where we may need work, where we don't, where we're at in our strength and speed side. And then obviously, guys with launch monitors and such know where we're at, with our launch monitor stuff. So, ultimately, it comes down to ball speed, and then, having good launch conditions, right? And, we need to work towards a swing that technically can produce, these good parameters, not, we need to optimize for conditions, but optimize. We need to have that stock, good shot, right? Where it's our highest ball speed with the perfect launch, perfect spin, and then we can modify from there. But know our numbers. A lot of guys get so wrapped up in club head speed. What's TrackMan saying for club head speed versus GC quad versus flight scope? And like, I don't really care what the club head speed says on there, because there's some variability. What I want to know is your ball speed, because that's an indication of obviously, contact. Club speed obviously produces our ball speed, but, not to be so wrapped up in club head speed. Let's, whatever produces more ball speed is, the best thing, right? But the club head speed is, to be considered, and it's important, but our ball speed is, significant, right? Mm-hmm. Where we can produce the best ball speed and with, the best, the launch conditions. So, I think just know where you're at. You know where you're at. Like if you need, if you need work physically, if we need work technically, if we need work, producing consistent launch, but, just to we need to address all those factors if you want to produce your best results on the tee box. And then, putting in some work on the tee in competition scenario, right? Whether it be competition or just simulating competition. Yeah. And I think, that's of tremendous value to, for somebody to advance, to get better at the sport, where you need the exposure to that scenario to elevate your performance in that scenario, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that competition does make a big difference. Even if you're just out on the driving range, like you said, make a game out of it where you're in a scenario, oh, I've only got 2 shots left. I need one in, or I need to hit it, this far to advance. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And then even practicing with guys, that tends to spur you on, where you're hitting, obviously, it's 2 guys on the tee only in the final, but I mean, if you and another friend can go to the range and, have that camaraderie and, hit sets against each other, and it just gets you more used to the, the noise, the, kind of the pace, try to emulate that competition scenario where, you're using a clock. If someone can come out and, simulate that competition scenario, that transfers a great deal to the actual in competition scenario as well. The more comfort you have out there, the better performance you're going to have.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk with a 6-time world champion. I don't know if I ever have. So this has been great. I really appreciate your time, and it's been really interesting. I've learned a lot, and I know the viewers will benefit from it as well. So thank you.
Good deal. Thanks for having the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Bye, everybody.
See you.